Yeah. Sorry. Yeah, enterprise. That's. Test, test, test. Test. Test, test. These aren't working.
That's what Tabitha was saying.
Put up. These are what the remotes are.
Are they all on one table? Are they?
No, they're each.
Here is. That's yours. Thank-
You had to reline the cans.
Oh, okay. Pardon?
What time does this one start?
It starts at 9 o'clock.
So,
So if you go by the current time, we are late.
testing 1, 2, 3, testing 1, 2, 3. Nothing. Testing. Testing, 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 testing.
Hello, can you hear me? Can you hear me now? Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Can you hear me now?
I mean, the other one. Testing 1, 2, 3. Testing 1, 2, 3. It's not picking up either, Scott.
When you talked, it lit up a pink red light under one of the channels.
On each one. So it's just not coming over. The speakers in here probably is what.
No, it's not getting to the recorder either. It's.
But is this one getting to the recorder? Okay, as long as it's getting to the recorder, yeah. Okay,
Hello? Hello? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now?
testing, 1, 2. I just didn't want to not have recordings. I'm gonna try this first one. Testing, 1, yeah, we're good. Hello,
Watch out.
I'm trying to make sure y'all have mics. Well, I'm trying to help Scott make sure you have mics.
I don't need no mic.
Well, the recording kind of does.
No, that's what, that green light goes off.
Oh, well. We gotta have that so we can have record.
Oh. You know what they do back in the day before internet and YouTube? They-
3 times. Okay, so where do you want this one now, Scott? Back at the table?
Yeah. Look at the table and look at the.
I'm gonna go ahead and turn it on and see if it's supposed to start at 9.
Youngest one first.
How you doing?
I'm good, how are you?
I'm pretty good, thank you.
Thank you, Scott.
Either I don't have any glasses or I get glasses everywhere.
All right. Everything working, Scott? That you know of? Okay. Thank you for getting this going.
Other than the bird speed, they're. I'm working for this week.
All right, we got Judge Winters scheduled for 9:30.
Oh, 9:30.
Yes, and there's nothing scheduled until then, so there are some items that we can. Is there any items that we need to follow up on to discuss? I have several that I want to talk about. That we didn't make a clear distinction. One is Judge Martin. It's a request for 85,000 for rental of a office rental. Do we want to keep that in the budget?
I said we get it fixed.
Okay, that's my intent. We've gotten a quote on one part of it and I'm working on the other. So we'll work on getting it fixed.
I think we should make it a priority, like get it fixed pretty quick. Cause
Okay.
it is embarrassing up there, but there's no sense in spending $85,000, in my opinion. You go somewhere else when it may cost $85,000 to get it fixed, let's get it fixed right as quick as we can.
Okay,
That's mine.
well, we've got money in our budget to do it. I just haven't had the opportunity to work on it in the last 2 weeks. So,
You wanna check it out?
yes,
Good with y'all.
Now, that's-
I think we need to get it fixed before October.
we will.
Yeah.
It will be
I agree.
fixed before October. Before the new year. Okay. So, and in light of I don't know where we're at. We still at 1.9 million over.
Or trying to run just a little bit of correction. And approved.
So I was going to go back into public buildings and take the $1 million I had in there to use for courthouse renovation. And cut it to $500,000.
Won't we just agree that that's coming out of the reserve and not pull it out of operation?
Agree.
That takes that being right off the list.
I don't think 500,000 is gonna get your windows.
No, it's not. But I don't have to get them all. I just want to get the 4th and 5th floors. That's the main objective right now. They're the ones that are leaking the most. And
And you gotta,
I don't have a problem with you getting in your reserve. If it's a one-time expense. Because we have. Sufficient reserve.
okay,
if I was gonna do the windows, Judge, I would. I mean, my opinion, if you're gonna do them right and do them all, get it over with.
I agree. Because you're gonna have to do scaffolding, and if you're gonna do scaffolding, you might as well do them
Might as well do
all.
'em all.
But I don't have costs yet.
Right.
On what that was gonna be. And the initial the conversation, the guy that came out and inspected them all has provided me with a quote on coming back, taking 2 windows out, taking them back to Austin, refinishing them and bringing them back here and installing 2 windows, one on the 5th floor, one on the 4th floor. And that quote was $30,000. And it's not, I'm not going there. Okay, so 2 windows. Yes, now this is research for them to figure out how the windows are actually installed. To see how easy it is to take the whole frame out. That's part of it, but over half of that is related to travel and overnight. So I am going to be looking for somebody who can do them in place, who can do the possibly sandblasting or stripping in place and not have to remove the windows and replace the windows. So I got to get, but again, I won't have costs on that for a couple months.
Have you talked to the historical commission? If you're able to do that,
Do what?
is that the issue?
Well, once I get costs on how to have it done, then I will go to them. The gentleman that doing all this stuff would he would be getting with the historical commission to make sure that the glass that they replace it with is the appropriate type of glass to use. The historical commission does not want dual pane modern glass. They want historical glass, and sometimes we can get them to agree to a waiver of that and possibly put tinting in it, but we haven't gotten that far yet.
We'll have to do an RFP.
Right. Yeah, when it's that. I'm doing the research right now to see what this company that came out here is now going to provide me a report with every window and what windows need to be replaced because they're broken or cracked, and which ones the frame is in really bad shape and may need something more than just sanding or stripping or whatnot. So once I have that report, then we can work on an RFP to have someone come in and replace it. Plus, I have to get with the historical commission to find out what type of glass they're going to allow us to have, what kind of putty needs to go on the windows. They may be specific on that. So again, we're in a research mode as far as that goes. So yes. So how does that work? If you say you're not, we could go into the reserves with that one-time expense. But when we're figuring out where we're at budget-wise, are we going to take that, say, $1 million out of the net effect to see where we're at? Okay, all right. So then I will leave that in there for right now.
If y'all are okay, I mean, that's the portion.
Yeah, well, I don't want to, if that's the case, that's fine with me, because then it's not going to be a reflection on the $1.9 million would not be a reflection on the true operating expense increase.
Well, you can, I agree with you, sir. You
Okay,
could lower that bill to 300,000 for your regular maintenance, not your windows. And then when you find out your research, we can take that money out of reserve anytime we want to.
I mean, the contingency line.
Well,
The
then,
contingency line is to get into your reserve. If y'all wanna move that $1 million into contingency and just have 300 out of public building, then that would be easier.
well, then that would be the thing
yeah,
to do.
that what we do. Okay,
We can increase contingency.
And that way, when you find out your stuff, then we would just move it from contingency.
okay,
You can come to court and do the budget and then explain.
okay. That,
And if you're gonna do that, you could actually have the whole contingency line come out of the reserve. Whatever much you plan to have there, if you only have $1 million, whole $1 million. That way it don't affect what we're giving from.
right. No,
If y'all want to put $1.5 million in contingency, then, you know, that is getting into your reserve.
right,
And that pulls $1.5 million off this 1.9, and now we're down to 400,000.
okay,
Yeah, after yesterday, I put in the fire marshal and I went ahead and did y'all road and bridge. Like, we were at 2,461,000 net. Now, you do $1 million. Right now it's $1 million. And 85,000.
so for right now, with everything as it is, 2.4 million, take out 1 million and put in contingency, so we're down to 1.4 million, so we're still.
Well, you have 400,000 in contingency too. If we go ahead and pull that out of reserve, we can shave that 4 off. And that's what every one of the employees have asked for. We ain't starting with those yet.
Right,
Well, we don't have the $4 million in reserve that's available to mess with. I wouldn't recommend,
I understand, yes,
depleting that.
or
I thought we had 6.
Six you can't touch. We've got a total of 10.
there's
Six
6
you can't touch.
that's earmarked.
I heard number 12 somewhere.
I think Sandy said yesterday there was 10.
There's 10 projected, and then I showed y'all 768 that we're not gonna spend, so that pulls it up. And then we have 400,000 in contingency in this year, but that we haven't spent,
Mhm.
so.
We gain interest off of that.
Yes, all that money is earning,
So it's kind of split around 11.
right,
So how much is left after you take the 6 that we don't want to touch? How much is left in reserve?
Oh,
So I thought,
and I will say 5 when we finish 2024 because of the payroll and, spend. And I mean, we will easily have $1 million from the payroll and what we have to spend.
right.
So.
So, but we
That-
budgeted last year 1.5 into the reserve, correct? And it looks like we're not gonna hit that, correct? We will probably break even. So I would suggest that we budget at least $500,000 into the reserve this year, anticipating the amounts that we're not gonna spend in the coming year.
I agree. I mean, my main focus or goal is do not get into that reserve, do not get into that reserve on salaries, because that's ongoing.
Right,
correct.
right. But we,
Yes. If we get into it, it needs to be a one-time deal.
Okay,
And the only thing you asked, that's the only thing that we never did address on constable number 4,
mhm,
is there's $1,500 for deputies' fuel, and we've never done that in the past. No other constable done it, and we had never done it in the past for 4. I don't think we should start that myself.
okay,
What do you
and
think?
that's deputy too, it's not,
The deputy was there.
That's deputy fuel, not his fuel, deputy.
right. So we're gonna drop that,
I mean, if that's good with y'all, I just,
yeah, I'm
you're
fine,
opening,
I'm
you're
fine
opening
with
up a
that,
can of worms there you might not like.
right? No. I don't believe so, they've asked for deputies, almost every year, and we've said no.
Well, what they do is they just give their deputy their fuel card and they go pull it. Goes out there to be like,
But it's still in their fuel
In their
budget,
fuel budget.
correct?
yes.
They don't go over their,
Yeah, take that out.
let's, I want to, oh, we got the time. My desire is to come back, in other words, once we get all this done today, is to put everything down, and then I want to go through it. I'll go through it in detail and come back and say on items that I think we should address and up, lower, or raise or whatnot. And I want to do that on, and I just want to check with y'all's schedule. Tuesday, July this. We've already got stuff scheduled for me. Tuesday, July the 2nd. And go ahead and try to finish up all of the things that we haven't made the final decision on. And then with we have Commissioners Court on Wednesday the 3rd, and then go ahead and schedule a workshop for that afternoon if needed. But just
Fine with me.
does that work? The 2nd and the 3rd?
Second work, second, third work with me.
Okay. So that's what I'm gonna do. I'll go ahead and send y'all out a notice of that. And then what's the next on this, I don't have it with me. What do we have to do next, Sandy? We don't get the
The budget on the calendar,
yes, on the calendar. When do we get the final numbers from? It's like August, isn't it? When we get the final numbers from?
yeah, you know, probably up there, either
Yes, I did. I printed it out, but I don't remember right offhand.
August 7th is the actual date of calculation of number revenue and road approval rates. She said she tried to do it soon.
Can we got Commissioner Court on the 3rd.
Yes, we do.
Can we have the budget like after, like at 11, after Commissioner's Court?
That's what I'm gonna do. Yeah.
Okay. Are you, you're not scheduling anything for the 5th, are you?
No.
Okay.
No.
July the 3rd, we should select the grievance.
Okay. That, so that we would have to get. We don't have to select a grievance committee if there's a grievance, correct?
So we go ahead and, y'all have to decide if you want to do a public officials grievance or a 9-member public.
Yeah, they have to.
grievance.
Mhm.
And
Okay,
if you're gonna do the public grievance, Susan has to draw all the names from the grand jury.
okay. That'll most likely be the way that we go, unless anyone else has
The
a,
way I prefer it.
That seems to work well.
it's a more,
Yeah,
Never had one.
we have to do that committee, whether you know if
Right.
grievance is coming. or not.
right. Yeah, but including elected officials on it's a little bit of a conflict, or
I
can
agree.
be a conflict, whereas if we use the. Yes, we've been ready.
Judge, what are questions
just-
about that public?
This was long.
Pardon, put this on the public buildings, where did you put money in there?
Oh.
For an architectural firm?
Well, that was part of that million, but we can, since we're gonna do it that way, I'll leave 300,000 in there. For it, and actually architecture firm, it won't be near that much because we're going from scratch. We're not doing you know, renovating an existing building, so it'd probably be a whole lot cheaper. And plus we could steal everybody else's, so, but yes, I'll keep it in there. Good morning, sir. Morning. We have your numbers up on the screen, if you want to use that, or just, typically we don't address the personnel part other than you want to explain the new position.
All right,
Okay,
are we ready?
we are ready.
All right.
Yes.
So, I thought this is actually the first time I've sat down for a budget workshop since I've been here. 2020, I submitted a packet of information to help you with your sleep schedule. But I've never actually come in and sat down with you. I know you already know the main things I'm asking for, but I also thought it might be an opportunity just to spend a few seconds and kind of tell you what we've been doing.
Mhm.
Largely, we try to keep to ourselves down the hall, do our business and stay quiet. Try not to be a pain in the neck for you guys.
Except the
Yeah.
bailiffs yelling
Well-
out names in the hall. That is,
We,
I know it's required by law, but it's annoying.
we have a large number of folks. It seems to be the marijuana cases, oddly enough, that can't quite make it to 9 o'clock hearings. But anyway, before I get to talking about the building at least, I wanted to give you a little bit of word about what's going on. Some of your predecessors, I know you all know, but some of your predecessors, I've been out at different, you know, community events and some political functions, and some of them had difficulty even getting the name of the port right. I've heard it called the.
Now, just be aware, we are live streamed and
I-
recorded. Okay, I just want to let you know that, okay?
I'm aware. I tell any one of them the same thing. But they've called it the family court of law. They've called it the misdemeanor court, all sorts of things. And since we are kind of quiet, keep to ourselves and just do our jobs, I think it's kind of important every once in a while to know what we do. And right now, what we have is 11 separate dockets. We have a general criminal docket. We do 6 of those a month, and 2 of those are off-site at the jail. We have Judge Martin and I, when we took office, decided that one of the bigger security concerns for the building, one of the bigger issues for the sheriff department was transport. Some of you may remember, there were a few times when the big van pulled up at the back door, was the inmates would get out and they knew Judge Drum's vehicle, and they knew how to make a big old long scratch with their handcuffs down that vehicle. We had some incidents where victims and family members knew where the chain was going to come through the building, and they tried to meet them in the hallway or catch them in the elevator or that sort of thing. Transport was always an issue, so to the greatest extent possible, unless it's an evidentiary kind of day, it's a jury trial, a bench trial, something like that where there's witness testimony, we handle most of the jail stuff over at the jail.
Which saves the sheriff's department an immense amount of time and money.
It does, it works out better, it's safer. We do use, I think they call it the training room now. I took my CHL back in Burnett was an office. I took that in that little room. They use it for everything, but it's open so that we don't violate open courts provision. Family can come in, public can come in. We don't do it in the secure portion like in the library where they used to do it. But it works well for our purposes. On the criminal, I brought a couple of things for you. There's there's two different orders that the department signed and I've signed this afternoon order. One of them is division of new felony matters. I think most of you were similarly situated to me when the CCO was created, where we kind of were on the periphery of it. But at the time, the goal was, to get a new district court here. And, the goal was to take off, as much of the burden from the district court as possible. The district court is always, even back in the days where the circuit court between here and Wood County, they were always backed up on the criminal side and the civil side with family cases and that sort of thing. And so last year, we made a particular order so that from indictment, a certain number of the felony cases naturally get filed here with the county clerk and go through. So we do have all of the misdemeanor jurisdiction. We have a designated portion of the felony jurisdiction. And then, of course, we have anything that Judge Martin is conflicted on because of his past involvement as DA. Second thing we have is of course, the general civil jurisdiction. Largely what we see on that in these day and times as credit card companies, credit card suits are the vast majority. We have a little bit of car wrecks and contract disputes and things like that. But almost every day there's 10 or 12 things that we get from credit card companies for somebody that's bought the debt from the credit card company, funding group, or there's a few names that we see over. The third thing, and one of the biggest areas that we deal with, of course, is family law. We split every other family case gets assigned either upstairs or downstairs. That includes the protective orders, the divorces, the child custody, child support, all of that. We 50-50 it. And it seems like there's been an influx in the last couple of years of protective orders. Our crisis center folks have gotten more involved. We're one of the few counties where the DA's office isn't really the person filing the protective orders. It comes a lot of the time through the crisis center. Those are things that have to be ruled on immediately, set immediately for hearing. We've seen a lot of that lately. Fourth thing is, of course, contested probate. From this court, anything that is determined to be contested, the litigants have a right to a lawyer, judge, person with legal degree to hear that.
And back up when I'm not here for mental health and juvenile
Sure.
hearings, so.
We have one fairly well-known probate case that one of their filings is probably 1,500 to 2,000 pages. Their estates will be fighting one day over this same estate. It's been all the way to the Supreme Court. Supreme Court's upheld our rulings over and over again, but they will appeal it from here to Tyler, Austin back to Tyler back here, and every one of them has been upheld so far. But it's that file, and I'm sure most of you have heard about it because it was a big deal in Will's Point. That takes up a good amount of time. Contested guardianship is 5. That's the same way. 6 is the civil appeals from the Justice Court. Corona caused the Justice Courts to get modified by the Supreme Court, and they broke a rule that's existed in our state all the way back to the Republic of Texas days. Our courts are supposed to be neutral. They're supposed to not provide legal advice, and now they're required on evictions and most small claims matters as a part of the judgment. When one of the JP courts issues a judgment, they have to tell the litigants step by step now in the judgment how to appeal. And so most of the evictions now get appealed. Before, they were charged with knowing how it works, but they'd have to actually go research it, go learn about it. Now, basically, their hands are being held and they're told step by step, here's what to do to appeal it. And frankly, most eviction appeals go in favor, or most evictions go in favor of the landlord. So the tenant then gets told, here's how to drag out the process another 3 months and stay here rent free. They take advantage of that, they appeal it up. So we've seen a big influence of that, or influx of that since the Supremes changed the rules on that. Supposedly to kind of balance it out, to make the pendulum swing back a little bit the other way, they made it where the landlords no longer have to file their evictions in JP court. They now made it where there's original jurisdiction in the county court, in the county court of law, for an original eviction, so that there isn't that appeal step. So they know they have to pay a much higher filing fee to file here than they do there. They know, you know, the formal rules of evidence procedure, all that apply here where they don't apply there. But they also know if the tenants are routinely dragging it out the next 3 or 4 months and they got to go through it anyway, they can just skip that step and go right to go. So professional type landlords, those folks that have been doing this for a while or have a bunch of properties or whatever else, they're starting to file the original evictions here. So that's a new thing. 7 is traffic ticket stuff. We one day a month handle that. Class C, other than the jury trial we had to have for the property behind us here across the street. Other than that jury trial, that's one day a month, but we do take all the traffic stuff from every municipal court, all the JP courts. We've got a bond forfeiture docket. That's all those names being called in the hallway. Believe it or not, we've got some pretty serious judgments against some bondsmen. There's a bondsman in Marshall right now that I think we're nearing the $500,000 mark for judgments that we've obtained for posting bonds and never following up for it. And getting people here even after they didn't show up for court, knowing that they didn't show up for court, not sending us somebody out bounty hunter style, finding them. So that's a thing. And then we have the asset seizure and the forfeiture docket. That's depends on the amount of time that the DA's office can focus on filing that stuff. I think Mr. Woolridge now in their office has been assigned to doing civil stuff. I think he's the one that's working with y'all. We have a miscellaneous docket, and then the 11th docket is the CPS docket. And I'm gonna let you pass this around. I can't give you a copy of it, but I'm gonna let you pass it on. This is the current CPS list. And I think the thing that sometimes gets lost in thinking about CPS is just how many people are involved in a given case. Most of the CPS cases, you have a mother, you have more than one father, you have grandparents, you have lawyers for all of those people, you have the lawyer for the department, you have a requirement under our law to appoint a guardian for the child or children. That tends to be CASA. And then you have the obligation under the law to appoint an attorney for the child or children, which could be multiple attorneys depending on where they're situated.
And when you say appoint, you mean that the county pays for the attorney?
The taxpayers of this county are obligated to fund that.
Mm-hmm.
And each of those people, if parental rights are subject to being terminated, in other words, if it is a termination proceeding, or if jail is involved, those two rights under our law require the appointment of a lawyer. So you have these cases routinely that may have 5 lawyers that we're paying for.
One CPS case.
One CPS case. We had one on this last docket where the child had been removed in December of 22. And the CPS cases are mandated to take no more than a year. So they reach almost the 1-year mark, and the decision is made by previous judge to return the child to the mother. And so when they return the child to the mother, they call it a monitored return, because they don't transfer custody back. It's kind of like a trial period sort of thing. She made it 3 days with the child back before she went to jail. And before it got revealed in that process, she was having a fight with her sex offender boyfriend. And her other boyfriend didn't know about the sex offender boyfriend, and so 3 days in, the case started all over again, because they came back with the kid. She had been having the child in a household where there was a registered sex offender, and obviously violence and whatever else. So that one case that started in 22 that should have been over late 23, now it's gonna go into 25. So those cases, and you can look at it, see with that I passed around there for you. Lists and lists and lists of people that are involved in these things, and a lot of, the CASA is a great program, that's not a cost to us, it's a volunteer setup, they do great work starting at lives. But you're paying for, we are paying for, the state to be represented and the department to be represented, every parent to be represented, and everything else, those get quite complex. Roughly, there's 50 of those cases that are pending right now. I left that one as last because, really, there's not a lot of changes. I have requested budgetary in this process. One of them has been for the addition of a civil coordinator. Most courts have a minimum of 2 coordinators. We functioned well for a good while with one. With the addition of the felony work last year, this actually is probably the best choice that I've made since taking office, because she has the ability to multitask on levels that are amazing to me. And more importantly than that, she has the patience to deal with some of the people that we have to come into contact with. And besides the people that we have to come into contact with, there are the lawyers. The lawyers are not quite people, they're a different thing altogether. And some of them are challenging. Okay. So she's already been doing the work with 2 people, but adding on this CPS thing, when each of those folks in each of those cases are required to be notified, the lawyers are required to be notified, and each of those cases, each of those CPS cases have statutory mandated hearings that have to happen on a certain schedule. You have, once they file the case, you have an adversary. If the department gets custody after the adversary hearing, there's a status hearing. There's what they call an initial permanency hearing. So if this is going to be a permanent situation or not. After that, there is a review hearing, a permanency hearing before a final hearing, All of these things are statutorily required. And so in that 12-month period that the case is supposed to last, we'll probably have 10 hearings. 10 hearings, that 20 notices for each one has to go out. That's a full-time job in and of itself. I joked with you somewhat at Judge Martin's expense about the building. If the position is approved, I don't intend on asking for space, really anything other than as a part of the regular line items that's set aside. The new person will need for the computer will need a laptop because they'll need to be in the courtroom. As those hearings are heard, each of those things has to be calendared. It has to be made to e-file and all of that. The easiest way logistically to do that would be a laptop. We probably would divide the office space that we have with some L desks or something. So a desk, and so that's about it. My computation that I put in, I used for that salary because I did not think it was fair either to the other existing coordinators who have tenure is not the right word, but that have longevity. I guess.
Years of experience.
Years of experience. They have the experience and they have the commitment of being here. And we'll be real about it. There have been years where the employees, just because of the financial situation of the county, had to absorb some of the hit. And so the fact that they remained loyal and stayed in that position instead of frankly jumping to other places that might be more financially beneficial to them and their families. I think it's fair that that loyalty and that longevity should be compensated better. Okay, so the number that I used was the pre-corona number. It was the salary Ashley had back then. It's 37,711. I've been told that the
That is a clerk salary, that is a clerk rank, well, it was this year. I don't know where it is after this year with the 5%.
well, the other numbers, I had been told that there was consideration at least or discussion about 5% increase. So my total number for whatever that line item is, that's I guess it's above the top of the screen there. That consists of the current salaries for actually my reporter plus 5% and then 37,711 for the requested new position. Beyond that, the only other line item that I really sought to change, there's a slight increase on the indigent legal aid. That's the first line for that. That's basically the criminal budget. We're going to get pretty close to maxing out that this year with the number of jail cases that we've had. And then the indigent legal aid. CPS indigent legal aid, I should have brought my readers. That number I took from
Here, I'll make it bigger for you.
my Father's Day gift last year for my children, by the way, was a magnifying glass. I keep it on the bench. I'm not gonna admit how often I use it. But on the other thing with it is it has LED lights on it.
Okay,
I use that too, anyway. So the number that I used for the CPS indigent legal aid, I got that from Lisa downstairs, or Michelle rather, downstairs, based on what her email to me says, per my CPS IDER reporting, CPS indigent was 237,509 for the district court. And then it was at fiscal year 2022, CPS was at 258,036. So that's where I came up with that number. After because Judge Martin had been in trial, I think, after our proposed budget information was due, Judge Martin actually got back to me and told me that his line item was substantially greater than that. And I do not know whether we've discussed, and I think approved at some point, increasing the hourly rate for juvenile probate or juvenile mental and CPS from 60 to 75 an hour. I don't know.
80, we went to 80,
To 80.
yeah,
Okay, I don't know if he's actually instituted that and started paying that or not,
yes,
but he did tell me that his billing is behind. To be clear, not his fault or his staff's fault, but the lawyers haven't turned in their bills very well in the last few months, and that he usually sends out some sort of email or fax or something telling them that they have to get their bills in so that it makes it into the current billing cycle. So he's going to have a spike whenever that goes out.
his budget was 325. And he zeroed that out because it's going to you, but I think that should be at least 300.
All right. I think it depends on two factors to me. One is whether he's made that change over from the 60 to the 80.
Yes, well,
And
I don't know.
and I think that'll affect it some in inflating the number, in deflating the number. I think it helps having someone with some skin in the game for the budgeting. And by that, I mean, when you have a visiting judge that's hearing that stuff, their concern is moving the cases. They don't have anybody looking over them to go necessarily, hey, are you making sure these lawyers aren't double or triple billing you? Because we found that in the past, and I'm sure you've experienced that here for the juveniles and mentals. There are only so many people on the wheel. And if they're sitting there, they've been called in for 5 cases and they're there from 9 to 12. They're entitled to 3 hours of compensation for their time. That's fine. But some of them will bill 3 hours for each of the cases that they're there on. Okay, and the way it has worked is, the bill is turned in to a different judge than was sitting in the courtroom.
Mhm.
So there's no real way to, police that, and see if there've been, maybe some of it's accidental or whatever. I'm not saying that they're all doing it on purpose, but some of them, if they can gain the system, are gonna gain the system. So, I think that upwards maybe a little bit because of the hourly change, downward a little bit because there's different eyes on
Mhm.
what's being done, so.
Now, all this CPS was being handled in Judge Martin's court.
So.
How does this work?
So here's how it was working before, the decision made was to release the associate judge. So, all of the cases up until trial were going to an associate judge. At the point of trial, any person in the case has the right to object to an associate judge and demand that an elected judge hear the case. Kind of makes sense that you want somebody that's making the big determination, the final determination, to be someone that's responsible to the voters, answerable to the people. So, for the day-to-day decisions on removing children, on where they stay while the case is pending, on things like every day we get a pile of requests because the court has to approve a kid going to the doctor. The court has to approve, it's summertime. If the kid's is with grandparents and grandparents are wanting to go to Disney World, that means leaving the state. To leave the state, the court has to approve and grant a travel permit to leave the state. If they want to go to Branson, if they want to go to summer camp with the church or whatever, each of those things has to be done. That day-to-day stuff was being done by the associate judge. The trials were coming back. I heard several trials. I believe the district court heard several trials. We kind of split it up depending on which one of us had availability, or had a jury coming in. Because generally in those CPS cases, because they've got to be done in a year frame, they figure out about 30 days before the end of the year, oh wait, this one isn't going to resolve. We need a jury. And so they rushed us and we'd get it, squeeze it in somewhere and get it on the docket. So now from that process, now there's no division and it just 100% of it comes through the CCI.
Okay. So are we paying for the associate judge?
Indirectly. It wasn't a line item in our county budget. It came through the state, but
Okay.
it was indirect.
But do you feel like by taking it on, it's going to be handled a lot more efficiently?
I mean, not to pat myself on the back, but I think I do a pretty good job at it. I take a little different approach, I think, than the associate judge does. I push on them very hard to try to figure out early on what the plan is, where they're going. You can get a pretty good idea in the first month or so, whether it's a situation where the parent is going to step up and do what they're supposed to do or not.
Mm-hmm.
I think it also, having 2 different judges potentially being involved in the process, it made them feel like they had 2 bites at the apple.
Mm-hmm.
And so if the same judge has heard for 6 months that you're failing drug tests, or that you're refusing to go to counseling, or you're refusing to address whatever the underlying problem is, they're much more realistic about what the outcome would be than if they go, okay, I'm pissed off this judge, I'm gonna go try my luck with another. So I think it does streamline it somewhat. So I'm hopeful. We were, when it kind of got to be a bubble, in cases that were demanding jury trials all at once, we took on, I think 16 of those trials. It was September, October of last year. And after I met with them a couple of times, 15 of the 16 resolved. And the last one, the parents didn't show up for trial, and so we were able to do it kind of as a summary proceeding. So it's kind of akin to when they call me 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning for a blood warrant from the jail. It surprises the person that's sitting there that the trooper's able to get somebody on the phone. They're uncooperative until they hear, because the troopers love to put it on speaker. They're uncooperative till they hear that the judge answers the phone, and they're like, "Oh, wait a second, I want to talk to you now." And so that's kind of the thing, is knowing that there's some part of our human psychology, I think, that requires you to be at that fork of the road before you take a path. And so helping them realize that earlier than later is going to resolve some cases.
Okay.
Sandy, so help me out here. So the 260 and indigent aid for CPS. So we were paying that in Judge Martin's.
That's smart, right, and he's still paying it this year, even though it's moved over, it's because it was in his budget, he's still paying it. But his was set at 325.
Well, that's my question. So if you look at Judge Martin's, then his should have dropped by considerably.
It did, he has 2 different categories where, I looked this up, let me go find it for you.
I see where a 416 or 415 dropped 25,000, but where's the other big drop in Judge Martin?
Judge Martin had 2 budgets. He had 435, which was the CPS court, and then he had 437, which was criminal court. We consolidated where he only has 1 budget. His CPS monies was actually budgeted 350.
Right here. See, this is what he submitted right here. This is the 435 department, and that is where this 415 in this department was at 350, and it changed it to 2,500 for next year, and that got moved over to the county court of law budget. That's 260.
Okay.
That's where it went. Yeah, I checked that out this morning because I would want to make sure.
You called me and they were concerned, but the numbers we had given Judge Winters did not include the increase from 60 to 80. I was gonna see if you want to increase that.
Yeah, and he did tell me that he listed with you, and that the current is the last, whatever, beginning of the month that he had, showed that from that line item so far this year, they got over 5. That's not right.
Well, let me close this right here and it will show. That's what he spent so far.
That's not.
Well, yeah, that's the budget.
So that, again, that's that bubble that he's expected at the end of the year when he sends out his.
They do, Patty notifies them, and then we get some huge deals.
Oh, I just redacted the document somehow.
I'll let him know, so.
Yeah.
Giving him the void. Well, my goal, it's been a big issue for me. Before coming into office, the CCO was routinely going over budget. And some transfers were having to be made from road and bridge and all that to fill in. And all 6 years now, we've come in under budget. I'd like to continue to do that. It's important to me. Whatever the number ends up being, I will work with it to try to manipulate it as best we can to keep that number low. We have, it's the indigent aid is one of those things that it's a part of our law, it's part of our constitution. We abide by it, we uphold our obligations. It's just kind of like any other tax that we pay. It's not real pleasant to sign those orders, to write those checks. But as with most of our obligations, we do it because it's our obligation.
And we do it because it's required by law.
Right.
It's an unfunded mandate. Initially, when the indigent defense was paid for by the state, at least a large portion of it was, and it's gradually coming down to where.
Well, the thing that concerned me earlier in the year from that is they decided to modify the juror pay. And the bulk of our jury expense is that first day of trial when we bring the panel. And it went from $6 a day to $20 for that first day. And it doesn't sound like a lot, but it also means it costs us over 3 times as much to bring in a panel. And so when we're bringing in, like for the last sex case, we needed probably 150 to 175 people on the panel to be able to get a jury of 12. If we're trying to get a jury of 13, it's easily closer to 200. You're bringing in 200 people, you're paying them $20 for that first day. Now all of a sudden that first day costs $4,000. Now I understand that the reimbursement from the state, that end has changed. But that reimbursement doesn't refund into our line item for jury expense. So looking at it independently, it looks like we're costing more on the jury expense all of a sudden. When ultimately the county in the end game is in the same position. But also, trying to keep from spending $4,000 to bring in a panel on a case that settles 10 minutes later, that really ups the pressure on making sure we don't unnecessarily spend that money.
I'm gonna go against everything I've always thought about. Do you think you can get somebody qualified to do that for 37.7?
I mean,
I'm not saying I agree with you on the longevity. But to do what they gotta do, I don't know if you can find somebody to do it for that.
I don't know the answer to that, to be honest with you. The only thing that I can look at with that is I've had a pretty amazing assistant so far that did the job for that amount.
Yep.
And whether I could get that lucky again, I don't know.
And how long ago was that?
That was pre-corona.
What does Ashley make now?
45,356.
Yeah, and that's all the court coordinators. That's what all the court coordinators.
I was thinking, my number was 40. What I was thinking of.
And that's before the 5%. That 45 is before the 5%, right?
Yeah, with the 5%, that pushed to 47 to 6.4. I want to encourage my current girls to stay. I mean, even my reporter, she got one of the highest salaries of a non-elected official in the county. And the other folks in the building understand that.
Mm-hmm.
They're keenly aware of that. But at the same time, it's like Any other position that we look at, I guess probably the sheriff's deputies are the most talked about one. But there were 2 district courts created on either side of us, one in Kaufman, one in Tyler. They start their court reporters out at $110,000 a year. Don't care if they have experience or not, so long as they've got the qualification. That's $30,000 difference to go 35 miles away. So trust me, I feel some concern that if it gets approved and whatever it's approved at, that I'll have some difficulty finding somebody. But I also don't want to insult the folks that I've got or discourage the folks that I've got. Or make them or believe even in the least that they're not appreciated, or that the new person coming in with 6 years less experience, that 6 years has got to be worth something, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. But you are aware we could budget it for 40, and you don't have to start them at 40.
Yes.
Okay. So. Even 37.
So what all is this person gonna do?
I would like, the easiest way to divide it probably is going to be criminal civil. So the CPS is a full-time gig, but it's to make it a fair balance between the two, I probably have to add the civil stuff that's already existing, the family law in general. And it kind of makes sense too with the scheduling. With protective orders, with temporary restraining orders, with temporary orders, all those have to have hearings within 14 days. And so a lot of these dockets end up being mixed between the CPS and the family. So it kind of makes sense for that same person to be doing both of those things.
Who was doing the administrative work prior to you taking it?
So the state had a coordinator for the administrative judge, and she traveled with him. He had her, and he had his own court reporter. And so I have asked, the state has their own proprietary CPS software that assists them significantly, because you can put a date in the computer and say, we removed children and placed them with the department on June the 21st, 2024. And the computer then will populate out, you need to have this done by this time, you need to have this hearing by this time, you need to have this hearing by all those dates that I talked about earlier, that the computer system will do that. It's proprietary, and because our government is what it is, they haven't wanted to share it. And so when I went to the regional judicial conference last month, I visited with the presiding regional judge, Judge Charles, out of Longview, and asked for his help in getting them to share that with us. And frankly, if we can get them to share it with us, a lot of our neighboring counties would benefit from that too, because they're in the same situation we are. Having that software will make that job a lot easier. It takes a long time to stop and calculate each one of those hearing dates. And if you don't have it by the statutory date, then you're out of compliance, and then you face screwing up the whole thing. I would have trouble sleeping at night if I had to dismiss a case, return a kid to a home because a hearing date wasn't calendared the right way, or, you know, we were out of compliance. I couldn't deal with that, right? So that would help a lot. That would help her job a lot. Henderson County is in the same way. Judge Gray over in Kaufman County tells me that they're in the same way. And I don't understand conceptually why something that's created by the Office of Court Administration, funded by the Office of Court Administration for use of the courts, why a statutorily created court can't have access to it, but an administratively created court could. It just doesn't make sense. And you know, they're worried about, you know, the software, it's proprietary, we're worried about it leaking. I don't know who in the general public would care to have CPS scheduling software. I mean, what are you gonna use that for other than its intended purpose? But, we've offered to do MOUs of whatever they wanted to put it on a closed system, something that's not connected to internet, so that, you know, the Chinese can't steal it or whatever. Like, whatever their requirements are, we've offered to do that, and Judge Charles believes we're gonna get there, but it's gonna take a little while.
It's in the position he's asked for, what's the total package for that?
Get it for you.
I did build that number into the other line items, by cheating off of the sheet that your office gave me. And I'll tell you this, doctor's degree or not, lawyers are all bad at math. And so it took a while with that number 5 for the employment insurance that was a different rate for part of the year than the other part of the year.
What, over 2 days, you have to.
Sure. See, as I said, math is not our thing.
So the $64 question,
All right.
at what point will Van Zandt County need to add a court? And what court would it be, district or another family, another court of law?
So I've got an interesting answer because it's something that I learned at the judicial conference. The legislature in their last traditionally, the ability to add a court, because it's legislatively created, comes down to the amount of influence that our particular state senator and state representative have. It's usually a political process, and exchanges are made and bargains are made. Ultimately, we got a CCL because a bargain was made. They gave us a court. They gave us a court that has unique jurisdiction. Not all CCLs have the same jurisdiction. We largely have the same jurisdiction as the district court does. Okay, what it comes down to was the compromise was where the financing from it comes and how much of that load the county takes themselves. So when that deal was struck, we wanted the district court because, as I said, the district court has heavy weight on it.
The state pays for.
The state pays for the vast majority of those costs. Okay. The CCL, the state supplements and whatever, but the county has its skin in the game too. And so that was the end result. For years and years and years, the political process has worked that way. My answer to you before last month would have depended on the how networked and how entrenched, how capable our state senator and our state representative was when the next session started. I don't see that even being on the table for this session. So, you know, the earliest potential would be 3 years away. Now, in between that time, the reason the answer has changed is this. The legislature in the last session basically created an apparatus to make those determinations without those political influences. They have come up with this way because they've further empowered the Office of Court Administration. They've come up with this way to try to determine based on numbers who needs what.
Yeah.
And so case counts, all of these metrics like the amount of time a case is on a docket, the number of absconders that you have. The vast majority of any court's criminal numbers are people that have absconded. And so that's a part of it. There are other things that you're trying to measure, like the amount of absences that judges have. Believe it or not, there are still some courts in Harris County and in Dallas County where the judges have taken
Liberties.
Well, they've taken corona leave in 2024. Basically, the physical courtroom has been dark since 2020. The legislature is very upset about that, and they're kind of punishing all of the judiciary for what a few judges in the bigger metro areas have done, okay? Others, they figured out also that there was kind of a scam going on, imagine that, in Houston. There were judges that were being elected and never going to work. They would get elected, and essentially what they were doing was, I'm gonna get elected, but I'm gonna hook up my friend by having him be the visiting judge and do the day-to-day stuff. So I get paid, they get paid, they don't have to run for office. And so the amount of visiting judge work and whoever's actually doing the day-to-day heavy lifting didn't tend to be in those situations, didn't tend to be the actual elected person. And so all these metrics are supposed to be kept up with. And then they present a report to the Judiciary Committee that says Kaufman County has exploded and there's an extra 250,000 residents. They need 3 more district courts. Dallas has 140 courts. They need 142, whatever. And so the question becomes, what if they've determined and recommend and approve a court that the county's not ready for? Because there's a startup expense to the court. There's a building and space need. You got to have a place to put it.
Facilities.
Facilities a metric to it, and then there's staffing. If they determine in this report that another CCL is needed and it falls to a county, I mean, we're in a much better position than we have been because of the work that's been done. But a few years ago, if they determined that we needed another court and told us, here it is, go put it in action, that might have been a pretty crushing thing to have to deal with. So it's yet to see how that's actually gonna play out. Whether you can kindly decline and say no, whether then it becomes a political thing to use your state rep and your state senator to change it from a CCL to a district court. I don't know. The need's going to be there one day, but we're not. We have difficulties now working with what we have. I mean, the majority of my trials are 12-person juries. We've figured out a way to try to get them seated in the courtroom. We need a shoehorn to get them in the jury room. Okay, when they deliberate, they have to all
His
be.
jury box is 6 for 6.
A jury box is 6, and we've worked around that with the space. But you go back to that first day jury selection. If it's one of these cases, we tried a few years ago, we tried a really nasty rape case out here. Where a guy just randomly passing through the county stopped at one of the hotels out here on the interstate, saw a housekeeper, went in and pushed her in the room and raped her in the room. And it didn't take the jury long to come up, and ultimately they gave him 3 life sentences. But getting people that could bear hearing that testimony and that sort of thing, you got to have a large panel to come in. When we had our family law divorce trial with one of the local bondsmen here, the subject matter wasn't that bad, but also you have people that are deeply integrated into the community and getting new folks. They knew everybody, exactly. So the space is a problem. I feel really bad on those days when we have voluntold the general public to come here. And you have folks that are infirm, elderly, or whatever, and they're having to sit on the stairs because we don't have a place for them to go. And our law doesn't let them be in the courtroom because they can't hear certain things, but, you know, where are they gonna go? I think we're probably in a difficult way of adding another court at any point until we have the facility question worked out.
We're starting to work on that.
I don't envy you in that process.
All right, what else? So we are gonna up is everyone in agreement to up the CPS indigent from 260 to 300? Because it was 350 over at the other account, we just didn't. do that. And is your you feel comfortable with the 85,000 on, is that civil,
No, the 85 is the basic criminal.
basic criminal?
Yeah, and we've done very well at staying within that. I've upped it a little bit. It was 81.5 last year. I've upped it a little bit because I know we're gonna be touching that number this year. One of the things that we do each morning is we get the jail report to see who's in the jail. And if it's anything lower level misdemeanor stuff that we can move quickly to try to clear a bed. Sheriff tells me that they're leaning on either 4 or 5 other counties often to put people there. There are some things that I have folks that have definitely punched their ticket to stay in there, and they need to stay in there. And there are some things that it's better to clear that bed and have that bed available for somebody that really needs to fill it. And so we've been doing our best to move as many of those jail cases as quickly as we can to keep those beds empty. And because of that, that's up that number a little bit.
Okay,
But I think we're talking that $3,500 is gonna keep us where we need to be.
okay. The change from 60 to 80 occurred January 1st. That's when at least my court's attorneys started getting, I don't know that it got conveyed.
And that was my question, and I know Judge Martin's had other things going, but I don't know if he's actually instituted that. I know it's been approved, but I don't know if he's actually instituted that with his folks that are billing now.
Okay.
And it may be that his.
Well, I know yours, you have a pricing sheet that kind of includes everything.
I do all of the criminal, I do all the criminal as flat fee. Because frankly, I want to encourage them to not show up 18 times on a misdemeanor. You know, it's still the flat fee is still kind of low, but it's reasonable compared to our neighbors.
Mhm.
And it's good enough that we have enough folks on the list to take appointments. So as long as we got lawyers that aren't malpracticing and willing to do it for that rate, I'm gonna try to keep it at that lower number.
Okay.
So on the CPS you're taking on,
Yes,
is that a state requirement or is it something we chose to do, we can just do a better job of?
to take it on. The choice is ultimately the district court's choice as to how it gets done. Judge Martin has been very good about consulting and taking in my opinions. And I'm very appreciative of that because honestly, he doesn't have to. If he chose, the way our system is set up is if he chooses to assign things to me, he has the ability to do that. And I just have to figure out how to deal with it. He's been very good about making sure I can and making sure it doesn't choke us down too much. And so that's not necessarily a relationship that has previously existed here. So the fact that we can have those conversations, have some heads up and whatever, that's a very good thing. So I'm not fully aware of what the issues were that caused dissatisfaction with the associate judge. I know he wasn't nice to the lawyers. He had more of a harsh, kind of a jerk demeanor to him. That doesn't mean he was doing a bad job or, coming to the wrong conclusions, but personality affects things too. I do know that there was some concern with, we had that bubble in September, October last year, how it got to the point where all of a sudden, here's this pile of 16 cases, when they're roughly the same amount, roughly 50 that were pending at the time. How a third of those suddenly needed a jury trial and suddenly needed to be dealt with. So I suspect that was a large portion of why something needed to be done. Reality is, it was nice financially to have some help from the state and having somebody do that stuff. But there are a few things that we touch that are more personal, even more important than determining where kids should be. And whether people, if the parental rights are terminated, those parents become legal strangers to that child. Some of them deserve it. They absolutely positively deserve it. Some of them need help to fix the problems that got them there. But I can understand why our law is set up such that you have an elected official to have the ultimate responsibility for those things. Because if somebody's abusing that power or making poor choices regarding those families and those kids, they need to be answerable to the voting public. So, I think a lot, that's why we also see a transition of that in other counties as well. Because ultimately you need to have somebody that, if they're literally screwing up these kids' lives, they need to have somebody to answer to.
What I can see here, y'all worked it out in the budget, really not gonna cost us anything extra based on budgetary numbers.
Yes, sir.
And leaving you, so I believe it turned to be a good thing for everybody.
I appreciate that. Because that ultimately was the goal, and not trying to make a net change. The way I have seen our board for the entire time I've been here is we're kind of meant to be the problem solvers in the East of Berg for everybody else. We take problems from the JP courts and the municipal courts. We take contested stuff from this court. We take the overflow and the things from the district court. And so I'd rather be solving problems than creating.
I think you should up that 30 to 42, because it's kind of like a car. Car costs $39,900. That sounds a lot cheaper than 40. If you get somebody, and your goal is to keep them, train them and keep them, not train them and let them go. And I think 40 is a fair number from what everybody else is at.
I don't oppose that, obviously. I just.
Or whatever the clerk pay
And
is.
he said it ain't a clerk pay, from what I gather.
Clerk pay, which would be close to that.
Because he created a clerk position, he didn't create another court administrator, he
Right.
created a clerk.
I think your goal is that when you get one, you don't want to train them and have them gone.
Right.
You want to keep them
I would, yes.
and think a little bit more would help you. So
I don't disagree at all. Obviously, the better offer we can make. I just, it was difficult to walk that line.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to, and I also don't know with certainty, and I assume y'all haven't crossed that bridge completely yet either, as to what's going to happen with the existing folks' salaries. So I didn't want it to be so close that my current staff feels like, oh, okay, I could come in 6 years later and just be making $3,000 a year less.
that's why I said 40. I think you got enough distance.
I can see you thought about it.
Well, I can see your point, Commissioner Goddard. he created a clerk position. He didn't create a chief deputy, he didn't create the court administrator, he created a clerk position.
Right.
Now, once he gets this person trained, if he wants to come back next year, consider a second court administrator, some kind of chief deputy, we have structure for that. But right now, he's created a clerk position and he's put them in at the clerk pay we're giving her.
The clerks make 30, they don't make 30.
37, well, that was the start, that was what we got them up to last year. So they will have 5% more of that, and I'll tell you what it
Oh, I
is.
thought you said they made 40 something.
Not the clerk, the coordinator,
Oh, okay.
the court
All right, I
coordinator
had
does
my-
that,
All right. I
not
had-
the clerks.
Okay, I had my positions. Oh, okay, I see.
It's 37.5 right now with a
Oh, okay,
increased salary of 5%, they'll be at 39,370.
Yeah. And that's what this position should be.
yeah, okay.
Budgeted for 39.
Okay,
That
I misunderstood.
All right.
However, the path goes, I think we still got the same point.
Yeah,
So you want to put the position in at 39,375?
Yeah. Keep it consistent with all the other.
I guess
stuff.
Ashley is a coordinator.
That is correct,
Okay,
yes.
I was thinking her title was a clerk and you said her salary. Okay, that's where I was getting the clerk. Ashley is a coordinator.
Correct.
They called them administrators, coordinators. The previous person, they called a court manager,
All right,
but
all right, I was confused. Happens all the time.
more as we get older.
All right, thank you, sir.
Very good, appreciate y'all.
Here's your super secret paperwork.
Oh. You guys know I love that so much. All my highlighting dog years,
How often you print that out?
about once a week.
That's the way.
Yeah, it gets updated. We're right now we're running 2 full days a month in CPS. And so right now it gets updated in between each of those. And then if there's a new case, a new removal that comes in, we can add that into it. It's pretty rare. We feel much as trees.
But if you got that new software, that would help.
The
immensely,
software will
won't
help a lot, and I've got a kind of a secret weapon in that regard, because my court reporter. 2 jobs back, she was the CPS travel court reporter. And before they got their administrator, she was effectively doing all that software, plugging it in
Mhm.
while taking the hearings. Because she's hearing all the information anyway. She gets done typing on the magic machine, she turns over, has the laptop right there, plugs that data in the laptop, so. She's already familiar with the system, how it works, and has used it for years, so. That would be really nice. She can train somebody on it.
Mhm.
After.
All right,
All right, very good.
thank you, sir.
So. And you also wait. Okay, then we do that. Appreciate it.
All right. Cindy, do you have anything that we need to address? I'm kind of budgeted out. And my intent is we close this and then I'm going to put together a document of all the things that we do need to address, things that I think we should address as far as each individual budget line items that need to look at and present that. And that's when we come back on the 3rd, we can do that, those items. But you know, we need to see where we're at with the stuff here. But are we in agreement, I think, that the sheriff's office gets two of their 15 positions? And the
I
sheriff,
not agree with that.
you're not, okay.
I think he needs his patrol position as dispatcher.
Okay,
I think the sheriff. I don't have a number. But. It's a give and take. There's some stuff they can cut in there and they're gonna have to come back. And if they want an employee bad enough, I looked at it, there's some money to cut for an employee there, I mean. They can't just be given everything. They're gonna have to work with us and give and take on it.
Okay. So that'll be part of the discussion. If y'all have any items that you want me to put on this list, let me know. But I'll have it to you Monday, the second. When is? No,
Fourth is on Thursday. Fourth is Thursday, Tuesday, the second.
okay,
The budget the second, and then a workshop the third, and then nothing the fifth, right?
yeah, I'll have it to you Monday, the first. For you to review. Tuesday, second, we'll have a full, morning, 3 hour in the morning workshop to discuss. And then we'll set another one for Wednesday after the commissioner court meeting, if we need it. We'll go ahead and schedule it, but only meet if we need it.
Can we get it earlier than the first, so we have a little more time to review?
Yeah, you bet. Since I have a whole week to work on it, I'll get it. It's Friday. Friday, the 28th, okay?
So we have a little more time to look at it.
Today's
Early
21st.
enough, I got time, because there's, all I get the first, so don't give me time to have questions to go talk.
We're not Friday.
Okay,
No one's like, give me one more time.
He's gonna give us the,
well, I will try to get it by Wednesday, the 26th, so that I have everything. So, and is everybody, I haven't sent the email out, everybody aware that, you're gonna be gone. We got a, the subdivision and guidelines public hearing on Wednesday at 9 AM. It's already, so,
That's right.
and then we,
Bob will be here too.
he will, or is he gonna be on here?
Bob, Keegan told me Bob's driving in.
He is, okay. I was fixing to call him and find out, I'll still.
Yep. Cause we didn't know if he's gonna fly or drive. He said he's gonna drive up here.
Okay,
This is the subdivision hearing, public hearing?
yes, public hearing. It was in the paper 60 days before meeting, so
And it's at 9 AM.
9 AM.
Now, are we set with a meeting where we can take action too, or are we just doing the hearing?
I would hope we would go ahead and take action on it. Even though there's gonna be things that need to be changed, we need to make it compliant with the changes in the legislature made last session. And I think, I haven't gone in, we'll get Bob to explain to that, because I think it had something to do between the 5 and the 10 acres.
I think he's adjusted for all that.
Yeah, I looked at it.
Yeah.
I think everything's done it.
Okay, well, I think we'll find that. As always
Or-
happens, somebody
there's
on
always
the public
something.
hearing will tell us, and what we need to do is just. Note those items and make it for the next one, I'm hoping anyway.
That's kind of why I was asking, is it just a hearing, or is it actually going to be a meeting with the option to take action on it?
Well, it's,
That's in Commissioner's Court after the hearing.
Okay, so we said it a special session during the hearing and then a session.
right,
I haven't seen the post yet, so.
I hadn't either, I just reminded Keegan we need to do it, so if she, is that,
Discussed and consider adopting Zandt County subdivision and adopting and taking impact assessment. Assessment,
is that what's posted?
that's what she's
Okay.
got posted.
And does it have, that we take action on it afterward?
Discuss and consider adopting Zandt
Okay.
County subdivision regulations.
Very
And
good,
approved.
okay, all right,
It does have a public hearing on there too.
yes,
That's public
that's
hearing.
first,
Public hearing is line number 4, and discuss it's line number 5. Discuss, consider, and approve adopting.
okay. All right. Anything else for today?
Oh, sure.
All right, then I will call us into adjournment. Thank you, gentlemen. And ladies out there.
Oh, sorry.